Lila had always been the quiet one. Not shy exactly, just invisible in the shadow of her older sister Sophie, the golden child. Where Sophie glowed with confidence, Lila existed like a faint echo. Even at her own sister's wedding, she was treated like an afterthought. Her mother had fussed over the bride's hair and dress since morning, barely noticing that Lila hadn't eaten. Her father had told her, "Try not to stand too close to Sophie in photos, darling, you'll draw attention away from her bouquet." It was half a joke, half a dagger. By evening, the hall was bursting with relatives who laughed too loud, danced too wild, and asked Lila the same question. "When will you find someone?" She smiled politely, each word stabbing deeper. Then came the final straw when the seating arrangements were announced. Her name wasn't on any list. No table assigned. No place set for her. She quietly took a chair near the back, behind a column, beside the catering table. The music was loud, but all she could hear was the echo of her own emptiness. As she sat there, invisible again, she scrolled through old photos of her sister and her ex-boyfriend. The one had dumped her a month ago because she wasn't exciting enough. Tears blurred her vision. She blinked fast, not wanting anyone to see. But that's when a little hand tugged her sleeve. A tiny voice said, "Why are you sitting all alone, miss?" Lila looked up into a pair of bright hazel eyes. A little girl, maybe 6, wearing a white flower crown. Behind her stood her father, tall, slightly awkward, wearing a suit that fit just a bit too snug. He smiled kindly. "I'm sorry," he said softly. "My daughter doesn't understand personal space very well." Lila laughed quietly. "That's okay. She's adorable." The girl beamed. "Daddy said no one should sit alone. Can she sit with us?" The father hesitated. Before he could finish, the girl grabbed Lila's hand. "Please? You can pretend to be with us." Lila smiled for the first time that evening. "Pretend to be with you?" The father scratched his neck, embarrassed. "I guess she's making us all a little story tonight. Would you like to join our table? It's not far, and honestly, I could use some backup during the dance music." Something inside Lila softened. "Sure. Why not?" That night, for the first time in years, she didn't feel like a ghost. They sat together, Lila, Ethan, and his daughter Maya. They laughed about how weddings always have the same playlist, shared desserts, and took silly selfies Maya insisted on. And for a few moments, Lila forgot the weight she'd been carrying. But not everyone was happy. Her mother noticed. Her aunt whispered. Sophie's friends giggled, "Who's that guy she's flirting with?" And by the time dessert arrived, the whispers had turned into gossip. Lila heard one of them say, "Of course she'd sit with a random guy. Anything for attention, right?" The laughter cut like glass. Lila excused herself, stepping out to the garden for air. Ethan followed her. "Hey," he said gently. "Don't let them get to you." She looked away, voice trembling. "I'm just tired of being the one nobody really wants around." He nodded, looking at her quietly. "Trust me. I get that." She looked up, curious. And his eyes, tired but kind, told a story of their own. He explained how his wife had passed away 2 years ago. How he'd been raising Maya alone, trying to stay strong while feeling lost inside. Lila's heart ached. Two lonely souls, both pretending to belong. As the night deepened, they walked back in together. Not pretending anymore, just sharing a little piece of peace. The next morning, photos from the wedding started circulating online. One picture stood out, a candid of Lila laughing with Ethan and Maya at the table. Her smile looked real. Softer. Alive. But her mother called soon after. "Lila. What were you thinking? Sitting with strangers like that? People are asking questions." Lila's voice broke. "So what if I was happy for once?" "Happy?" her mother scoffed. "This was your sister's night. You made it about yourself." The words cut deep. But something inside Lila snapped that day. All her life, she tried to stay small, quiet, polite, just to keep the peace. But not anymore. That afternoon, she got a message. It was from Ethan. Maya wants to thank you for sitting with us. She says you made the wedding fun. We're at the park if you'd like to join. Lila hesitated, then went. When she arrived, Maya ran to her, hugging her legs. Ethan smiled. You didn't have to come, but I'm glad you did. They sat under a tree as Maya played nearby. Lila asked softly, do you ever feel like you're just invisible to everyone? He nodded. Every day. But then I remind myself I'm still here. And sometimes, being seen by one person can change everything. His words lingered. As they talked, something began to heal inside both of them. It wasn't romance, not yet, but it was connection. Something honest. Weeks passed. Lila started painting again, something she hadn't done in years. Ethan encouraged her to show her work online. Maya called her Miss Lila, then Aunt Lila. And slowly, the girl who once sat alone at a wedding began to build a new chapter for herself, with people who saw her not as a shadow, but as light. Months later, at a small local fair, Ethan surprised her. He brought her to a small stall filled with framed paintings. Her paintings. I rented the booth, he said shyly. You deserve to be seen. Tears filled her eyes. And right then, Maya shouted, Daddy! Dance with her like at the wedding. Ethan laughed. There was no dance. But Lila smiled, extending her hand. There is now. As they danced under the string lights, everything else faded, the loneliness, the whispers, the pain. She realized that sometimes, being forced to sit alone was just life's way of saving a seat for someone who was meant to see you. Voiceover. She was forced to sit alone at her sister's wedding, but that night, she met someone who reminded her that love doesn't always arrive with fireworks. Sometimes, it begins quietly with a single act of kindness.